And we're live.
Good morning, everyone. It's the one, the only Senor Silverback himself, coming to you with my main man, El Coco. He is known as the master of the flux capacitor. It is none other than CJ, and we're bringing you the views, the news, and all the important information important to you. I said that all in reverse, CJ, and I don't even know how I'm doing it. Anyway, check us out on roguemoney.net. Follow us on Twitter at the Rogue Money and Rogue Money on Facebook. Rogue Money Steam it. Rogue Money DTube. Rogue Money where you want us to be. Rogue Money Apple News. Rogue Money on every single podcasting app known to humanity. Rogue Money iTunes. Rogue Money everywhere. Check us out. RogueMoney.net. The fastest growing, baddest ass geopolitical, geostrategic, geoeconomic news site on planet Earth. Many, often imitated but never duplicated. We are more original than Coca-Cola. With that being said, also check out our sponsors, RemainCom.net. RemainCom.net, the only company that the gorilla himself works with. The only sponsors that I am so intricately involved with. RemainCom.net, whether you need the gold USB to surf the web anonymously, or you need money from our network of 325 lenders, get you up to $600,000 unsecured, whether you need for investments, buying cryptos, paying off debt, buying a fantasy Lamborghini, Aventador SV, whatever the heck you're thinking of, these guys can get it done for you. RemainCom.net. Check out their personal funding and business page. Get the funds you need. Start the business you want or get the financial leverage you need to get yourself and change your life. Also, if you need that smart banking option or you need to get your credit fixed and prevent your bank accounts from being levied, check them out. They got their smart banking option. Open up a bank account in any bank, and you can do it securely and safely while meeting all federal and legal guidelines. RemainCom.net. With that being said, CJ, what's crack-a-lacking?
Hey, good morning, V. It's Monday and pumped up and ready to go.
Fantastic, man. Me too. I'm pumped up, ready to go. I'm sipping on my venti over here. I was having a wonderful day this morning. I mean, I woke up early. I loaded up my new set of shoes for the car. I got a new set of wheels for the Gorilla machine, and dropped it off at my local service area, which they service like high end automobiles. And here I am. I'm going over there, and I'm seeing this beautiful orange 2017 Porsche 911 GT3 RS. And if you know anything about a 911 GT3 RS, you know that is one bad machine, my man. One bad machine. And here's what I love about Porsches, man. They are not trailer queens. I mean, this guy had a roll cage in the back. He had the optional factory 918 seats put in. He had race slicks on there. I mean, those tires were bald, CJ. Meaning this car just came off of ripping it up in either Monticello, Lime Rock, or Watkins Glen, which are the racetracks we have here in New York and in Connecticut. One of those tracks, this guy put it to the pedal to the metal, full on power. It was a beautiful thing to behold. I mean, the car's gorgeous, man. If you can find one of those babies, they're anywhere between $300,000 and $400,000, and they hold their value. Like I said, folks, Porsche 911s are an investment. You get the right 911, that is an investment, especially these RS cars and the older 911s, like from the air cooled era. Oh my God. Man, it's better than buying a home. I'm kidding you not. It is. I'm serious. If you gave me a choice between buying a $600,000 house versus a $600,000 Porsche, I'm buying the Porsche because that Porsche is going to be like $5 million in no time.
Right.
you know, that Porsche is to me is as valuable as a Van Gogh. You know, so not there yet, CJ, but one day, Siege, we get a
It'll
factory.
be there. It'll be in
It'll
the
be there. I'm gonna
driveway,
get my
right?
911
Ready to go.
GT3 RS. I'm gonna get it one of these days. One of these days, CJ. It's soon. I'll get it. I promise. One of these days. Anyway, bro, how are you doing, man?
Good weekend. The weather was gorgeous here in the Midwest. I can't believe we're almost at November. My gosh, this year's just flown by, and we're heading into 2018, V, which another year. I just cannot believe how it just seems like the timeline is speeding up here.
Yeah, we survived, bro. We're surviving, you know,
Vibing.
and we'll survive into 2018. We'll be here commentating on the way up and on the way down, man. We will be here commentating, you know.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good things happening. I think with
Oh yeah.
Syria and the change that's occurring there, and this weekend alone, there was more information coming about the total take back of Syria away from all the outside interest, and it's been a long time coming, but it's good news, V.
Oh, absolutely, man. The Empire's pipe dream. The Empire had a pipe dream. We're gonna go into Syria and we're gonna create a multi-fractional Syria, and we're gonna give a portion of that to the Kurds. Well, that backfired. Okay, the exceptional stands wet dream of having Syria. Okay, of having Syria fractioned out and having a piece of Syria given to the Kurds came to a crashing halt as reality set in. And here's an article by Tom Laungau over at Russia Insider. Great article. It's all over, folks. It's all over but the crying. And the crying will come from every corner of the room where neocons that run Washington, D.C. and Tel Aviv sit. With the Iraqi army routing the rebellion of the Masoud Barzai's Peshmerga forces in Kirkuk, spells an end of an independent Kurdistan in Syria, while at the same time the pro-Assad coalition continues to pressure U.S.-backed SDF forces and the YPG Kurds in Syria. Now, this morning, Zurahedge runs a major story that the SDF met in secret with the Russian commanders to cede a major oil field to coalition forces. How do you like them apples? The information disseminated by Syrian military reports claim that an agreement has been brokered by Vlad the Destroyer and U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces. How nice! You put a democratic label on anything. I guess the bombs we drop and the munitions we give to ISIS, they're called democratic guns and democratic bombs, right?
Right.
makes it more palatable.
I guess so.
Right? Yeah, it's almost as good as love bombs. I think I like love bombs more. You know? Oh man, where am I? Okay, so anyway, the Syrian government will be allowed to assume control over the gas field. The scope of any backdoor agreements reached between Moscow and Washington regarding any transfer of energy assets held by Kurdish-led military back to the rightful ownership of the Damascus government may yet encompass a wider dimension, i.e. future transfers, although there is absolutely no evidence to suggest that this is in fact the case. Nonetheless, the unexpected transfer of the Conoco gas field by the SDF to the Syrian government does now raise the question as to whether or not hitherto competition between the Syrian Arab army and the Kurdish-led militias to seize control of much of the larger Al-Omar oil field from ISIS from further south is still on. As expected, once the Kurdish rebellion in Iraq was controlled, the YPG Kurds would secede to reality and see the situation for what it is. The move to cede the Conoco gas field is likely because of the offer by the Syrian government made recently to negotiate Kurdish on an autonomy in the post-military government. In other words, it is a disaster. So the response from the U.S. is a telling one. Will Trump and the deep state double down here and champion Kurdish independence as a cover for more troops? Okay, keep on that one. If all of a sudden, folks, you hear this blood-curdling cry, the scream of the night saying, we need to support the Kurds. They're a disenfranchised people, and we love those people. We love them so much. These Kurds were nothing but nomads for the last several thousand years. No home, no borders to call themselves. They were just wandering nomads, and all of a sudden they've been offered and brokered a deal by the neocons and neo-libs that are in Washington, D.C. and in Israel. They're offering them this for chaos in exchange, not stability. Okay, because again, these are banking and war economies need constant chaos in order for them to constantly exceed power. It's a parasitic drain on civilization. So here they if we start hearing all this stuff about how we need to support the Kurds and how the Kurds are oppressed and how the Kurds need love, then you know that that's the smokescreen or the pretext that these a-holes extraordinaire. Okay, this is from the organization of Assholes Incorporated will then use that as a pretext to launch a war or put more troops on the ground in Syria. What is your take, CJ?
No, I mean, if you think about from the very first stages, it's just crazy to think that this Syria was a sovereign country.
Yep.
We had no right. It was a completely illegal action to be. They claimed, like this statement from Nikki Haley. Okay, this is
Oh God, the nut
the
job.
stupidity of her statement to come out and join the forces saying that Russia interfered with the election, quote unquote. When a country can come interfere in another country's election, that is warfare. It really is, because you're making sure the democracy shifts from what the people want to giving out the misinformation. And we didn't just see it here; they're doing this everywhere. And this is the new weapon of choice. She's talking about Russia, but
She's a
yet,
dumb idiot.
but
She's a
U.S.
fucking
forces
idiot.
can come in
Sorry.
and these quote unquote these rebels under John McCain, under these neocons, complete illegal action. The shifts occurring. I think what the next conversation has to be, V, is really getting under Israel to understand that the influencers of the world, the power shifts of the world, it has occurred, V. It is away from US and into different powers, and it's a completely different world now. And Israel has to stop and pause for a moment to understand that this is occurring. They cannot continue this escalation with Syria, because if they do, it's not going to be there to back them. They may think that the U.S. will, but that can't happen.
Absolutely correct, man. Hey, Siege, you got to put this in your notes, man. We got to see if we can get F. William Engdahl. That's Engdahl. F. William Engdahl, and he contributes to Rush Insider. Soon enough, he'll be contributing to Rogue. I promise you that. F. William Engdahl, if we can get him on for an interview,
Yeah, I got it.
He's one of my favorite geostrategists. Um, he's a scholar, an absolute brilliant thinker, and his layout of the geostrategic play is so vital, so clear. I love his work. I respect him highly, because he talks a great deal about this in further detail as to what is occurring globally, and he brings some very key perspectives, because there's certain circles that he has access to that I don't, and I think it's vital having him on one day. Anyway, CJ, moving on.
Yeah,
Add this to the unbanked, and do you see the vital importance of decentralized banking, cryptos, and the blockchain? Give
yeah.
them
Real,
an
real quick,
ID. Go ahead, CJ.
before we jump there.
Yeah.
Let's jump there to the very last. And this is being reported by the BRICS Post
Oh,
that Syria peace talks are going to be occurring at the end of October in Astana. So,
oh, nice.
Russia, they're bringing some folks together to talk about, the prisoners, the prisoner swaps, locating, the missing persons, this effort to really broker a peace deal in Syria. And this is something that we need to be influencing the administration in Israel to be part of this conversation. We've got to join this conversation and understand it's change. And I know there may be back channels that are already doing this in terms of these talks, but let's make it 100% transparent, so that way we don't have, Israel claiming that, oh, we were fired on, so we're returning fire.
Yeah.
This is they have to understand that we can't be sending low-level dignitaries to these meetings. We need Tillerson there. We need to understand the peace strategy of what's going on in Syria, so that we can move forward. V, and again, so this is a good move, and I'm glad that these peace talks will be occurring here at the end of October.
Absolutely correct, man. I'm excited for that as well, and I love it. I love it because here you have, Astana, which is in Kazakhstan, the capital of Kazakhstan, which I admit, man, architecture is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's crazy the development that Azultan Nazarbayev has done as a benevolent dictator in Kazakhstan. He's literally turned that country around. It's incredible, kind of like what the the guy who, I forgot his name, but the gentleman who actually was a benevolent dictator, for lack of a better word, and I know that has a lot of negative connotations attached to it. But the guy who turned around Singapore, made Singapore for what it is, and then he handed Singapore back to a parliament after he fixed every single possible thing in the country, made it an absolute miracle in Asia, turning it to the Switzerland of Asia. Anyway, Kazakhstan is going to be the Singapore of Central Asia. There's no doubt about it in my head. Amongst the Central Asian countries, Kazakhstan is poised to benefit greatly from the One Silk One Road initiative. And this is, if you think about this, right? Are they picking now? We look at this whole entire series of peace talks in Astana at the end of October in Kazakhstan, and are they picking Kazakhstan as the favorable debate body, or the location of debate, or the future multipolar world's United Nations, but the United Nations in the European Economic Zone? Are they picking it as the body politic, so to speak, of where a lot of these issues will be discussed within the One Belt, One Road? It's starting to look that way, man. I mean, think about it. I think there's this is something to watch here for Kazakhstan. I think you're going to see the emergence of Kazakhstan as being a Brussels, a UN of political debate and discourse amongst those who are wanting to integrate into the One Belt, One Road project. So hats off to them. That's great, man. Good news.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting insight. So yeah. So go ahead. I
Let's
thought we'll
also
just go ahead and jump into that.
let's stay
Right
with
there.
the Middle East, man. Let's stay with the Middle East. Israel's out of touch with the shift of power away from U.S. influence. CJ, break that down for us, brother.
Yeah, so obviously through the entire Syrian conflict, we know Israel's been, very involved, and they're concerned about their natural borders, everything that's occurring, and the show that we did with W on Friday was great, and I'll reiterate the same message that this isn't Israel bashing, okay? This is just getting people to understand that the deep state, the cabal, and their ties of what's occurring. So, we're at the cusp of peace in Israel. So for Israel to understand that and just, adamant and claim that any mortar shells, any stray shells that come across into Israel landing, that there's no investigation, there's no seeing where it came from. Syria is claiming that, hey, listen, they're doing this on purpose to get you guys to which makes perfect sense, right? They're getting you guys to have actions to help defeat, to support, the ISIS and the moderate rebels. So Israel needs to take a pause in this situation to understand again that the shift occurs, and Syria is no longer under U.S. influence. It's completely shifted, and to come to the negotiation tables to understand that this type of military escalation with Syria cannot continue.
Absolutely correct, man. And it's like the handwriting's on the wall. Recognize what is going on, and understand fully that what the U.S. is no longer calling the shots. They're not calling the shots anymore. If they're not calling the shots, then what is the point? What is the point? So for the Israel to say, hey, you know what, we're going to continue to make the mischief. I mean, I get it. There is a massive corrupt cabal in Israel that you find in so many Western nations as well. And you got those who are the productive people that want to get their country fixed, want to get their country detangled from the foreign policy messes that have been created in the name of furthering the Atlanticists. And let me tell you something about the cabal. There's no religion among the cabal. Their religion is hate. Their religion is death. And they don't care how many Christian, Muslim, or Jewish lives are slaughtered in the process. So this is not a Jewish conspiracy as so much as a Catholic conspiracy. And CJ, I said this before. I want to take everybody who thinks this is a Masonic conspiracy. I want them to have a battle royal with those who think this is a Catholic conspiracy. Then the winner takes on the guys who think it's a Jewish conspiracy, and then so on and so forth. Okay, we need to think bigger. Okay, you need to think bigger. These subcategories and these organized religions. Okay, these things were created by the Kabbalists. Okay, and I say organized religion, people say, "Oh my God, V, you're a Christian. You're like, what are you saying?" No, I'm serious, man. You think you're being taught the entirety of Scripture in a lot of these theological seminaries you go to? Absolutely not. You think your pastor sitting in a pulpit is actually speaking real deep truth. No, he's giving you a how-to book. He's giving you either he's giving you some stories, reading off some biblical history and or stories that he just, for whatever moral lesson to be learned or whatnot, or he's just giving you a motivational speech that you can get out of a Tony Robbins book. That's basically what it is. The depth of Christianity is never been taught. The depth of biblical scripture is never taught. Like I always tell people this, you're not going to understand proper eschatology unless you understand Genesis chapter 6. Period. Don't come up to me talking about the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation if you don't understand Genesis chapter 6. That's my take. I'm not going to go into the deep end of the rabbit hole with that. But that's what I'm saying, man. So people have to think bigger. Okay, this invisible hand, this whatever you want to call it, okay, this evil force is no respecter of person, does not care what religious affiliations you might have on the surface. It will use anyone and anything in order to accomplish its goals. And that's what these Kabbalists are. They are at the end of their rope. So, yeah, man, it's time for people with sense to wake up and start taking back their countries. Moving along,
Absolutely.
see, it seems like the Americans, we in the United States, are not so worried about ISIS. What are we worried about?
Yeah, this is a very interesting survey that came out and talks about the America's biggest fears, right? So this survey that was conducted actually comes out that says that what most Americans fear is, imagine this, government corruption.
Oh.
So of the survey, 74.5% stated, which is true, around corrupt government officials.
Wow! No way. They really? So they're fear mongering, all their fear tactics of all their early on orange alerts and red alerts and green alerts and pink alerts and code browns. Okay, all that didn't work. All that didn't pay off. All their false flags. All their false flags didn't work. So Americans are actually concerned about corrupt politicians rather than terrorists. And you know what? I tend to agree with that. Because that is what the main problem is. ISIS can't rob
Bingo.
my future. Okay? But you scumbags in DC sure as hell can. ISIS can never destroy America. Period. America cannot be destroyed from without. But it can rot and be taken out from within. So I don't fear ISIS. I fear you scumbags. You lifelong attorneys who are masquerading as politicians, voting yourselves in office over and over again, perpetually and forever, fundraising from the moment you hit the ground. I fear you guys, you sycophant lackeys, you John McCain's, you Lindsay Tickle My Butt Grahams, you Nancy Pelosi's, you Maxine Waterses of this world. That's who I fear, you scumbags. I fear you. You're the enemy. You're the reason why, you a-holes, okay, you're the reason why we have a Second Amendment. It's not for sport. It's not for me going out and shooting a bear. It's for when you idiots decide to get out of hand and you finally push Americans to the utter brink. When we say enough's enough, that's when we start loading our 3006s and start coming after you guys. That's what the Second Amendment is there for. It's for tyrants. And we seem to have a lot of tyrants running around in D.C. these days, CJ.
Yeah, so this survey was conducted by the Chapman University, and it was over 1,207 U.S. adults. Okay, so huge statistics, but V, we need to flip that narrative. We need to flip that because we the people should not be fearing the government. And I'm not the one to think of this. Thomas Jefferson, I can't remember what his quote was regarding tyranny, or that when people fear the government, there's tyranny. However, when the government fears the people, it's liberty. And that's so true. So we need the government to fear us.
Yep.
We're the taxpayer. We need to flip that narrative, and it's time. So let's stop with this whole people should stand for the flag and the Democrat and the Republicans and all this stuff. It's just one big charade behind closed doors, behind closed curtain.
It is.
The federal government acts as one entity moving across while they perpetuate just keeping America people at odds against each other, V. And
Yep.
we have to understand that the people at the gates in DC are the biggest criminal, are the most corrupt, and until we as a people rise to do something about it, it will continue.
Absolutely correct, my man. Absolutely correct. And you know what? It's what's being done and what's being co-opted by the establishment for a long time. It's starting to break. I think people are they're finally cracks and fissures that are occurring right now, and it's starting to break down. But what is occurring is, for lack of a better word, um, people are starting to see that this whole rah rah patriotism, rah rah, let's get involved in foreign war. See, we are patriots. We support our military. We support our men and women. We love them. We love them, and because we love them, we don't want to see them thrown into warfare. We don't want to see them thrown into pointless wars that do not serve the interest nor the national security of the people of the United States, the citizens, and I emphasize citizens of the United States. We don't care about that. We care about protecting our talented men and women. We care about closing down 99% of these foreign bases all over the world. There's no reason why we have 900 bases in 130 some odd countries. It is stupid. It is stupid. And we need to shut them down, bring our men and women home. Our military should be a defensive military. Okay? And so we're starting to understand. In other words, what I'm trying to say is we're starting to understand that this whole patriotism stuff being co-opted by the powers that be is really nothing at the end of the day but a manipulation tactic. It's a manipulation tool, and now they're starting to lose that, man.
Yeah,
Anyway,
let's take a look at some real evidence of that, V.
yep,
Let's take a look real quick at federal spending from the federal government. So the
sure,
fiscal year for the government ended September 30th. Okay, the spending. Okay, now mind you, this is an election. This past year's election cycle. Congress held president. Or I'm sorry, Republican held Congress, Senate, president, and this year, we saw record spending more than any other year since fiscal 2009. Okay, so record earnings, and this is just mind blowing to think of these numbers. Okay, so for the tax period, we brought in a record $3.3 trillion. Spending was just under a little under $4 trillion, with a record deficit of about $666 billion. And yes, I said it 666. That might be designed, but anyway, yeah. So this is pure evidence that the corruption, everything that they go with, everyone turns a blind eye to everything else and gets more emotionally attached to everything else but the real numbers. And these
yep,
numbers speak for
exactly.
themselves, that there's the whole left right paradigm in DC, it doesn't exist. They're working together. You think any conservative or Democratic legislature minded the government? Now, granted, there was a lot of destruction, everything occurred that the government had to spend money, but this is pure evidence there of that how they work together to undermine the American people. But it's huge. Record dollars being spent in DC right now. They're out of control.
No, it really is, my man. And you know what? It just goes to show that it's a giant. It's one big club, man. And we're not in it. And then at the same time, how do we get back at these idiots? I think it's about time we cut their nutsack off. Okay, it's time that we geld these politicians. And the way you geld the politicians, the way you killed the military-industrial complex. You know how you kill the military-industrial complex? You know how you kill politicians? And I'm not talking about physically here. Okay, I'm talking about metaphorically cutting their agendas and their ability to project power off of the knees. You know how you kill the tumor? You got to cut the blood supply to the tumor. And where's the blood supply? Where's the source of the blood supply here?
Boom.
None other than the central bank. Now we need to start talking about alternatives to the Fed, CJ, alternatives to the central banks. Recently Russia announced that it will be unleashing a crypto ruble, and their central bank is controlled by the people, not the the Rothburgers or the Rocka whatevers. Okay, Just a week after the Vladimir Putin strongly criticized, other cryptocurrencies when announcing the move, the Minister of Communication Nikolai Nikiforov announced that it was part inspired by the aim of getting ahead of other governments. I confidently declare that we run crypto ruble for one simple reason. If we do not, then after 2 months, our neighbors in the Eurasian Economic Union will. In doing so, Russia is following the lead of another country that too has become hostile to private crypto, China. Last July, the People's Bank of China became the first central bank to announce that it has developed a crypto prototype and that it plans to offer alongside traditional renminbi. That the first forays into the stable-backed cryptocurrency comes from two countries with a history of restricting a free and open internet is not surprising. While Bitcoin originated as a way to opt out of government control of money supply, increasingly governments see the underlying technology as a way to increase their control over the economy. CJ, break this down further for us, man, and I'll chime in on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, let's think about this. We were witnessing it around the globe, and breaking news came out today that there's two Providence, two locations, two cities in Italy that are wanting to break away, kind of follow the same Catalona model of Spain. And what did the Catalonians? The first thing that they did was when they found out that Spain was going to crack down, they said, "Well, fine, we're just going to start taking all of our money out of the banking system, and it's causing harm." Well, we as Americans can do the same thing. So, in an SLV, to break this down, and I think this wonderfully states it, that to understand as libertarians that the monetary policy that should not be wasted pursuing moderate reforms like audit the Fed, right? What good is that going to do? Audit the Fed, show the corruption that exists. However, there's one way we can transform. We need to transform, and that's to end the Fed and move that cryptocurrency could bring to freedom. And getting people like Senator Rand Paul, his dad, to understand the disruption of how a true, transparent, free market system could exist with cryptocurrency. Whether that's state-produced cryptos and that's what they want to do, great. But the freedom to participate in any type of currency that we want to. How big would that be? How to free humanity away from the corrupt system that exists today?
Absolutely correct, my man. Absolutely correct. And that's the whole entire thing is having openness and honesty. And it makes me kind of think as well. I've talked about this for a while. Jim Willie's been talking about it forever. London Paul's been talking about it for a while. A few other guys as well. You can count on one hand, and that goes to the fact that the reality of a two currency system here is the two currency system that many are planning on launching here with a devalued domestic dollar and a devalued dollar for international trade, a two currency system such as which that exists in Cuba. Okay, there, at one point China also had a two currency system as well. Now, what our two currency system would it be what these banksters are hoping for, a cryptocurrency dollar, okay, that's been devalued severely for us to use for domestic purposes, and a actual commodity backed in some regard international trade dollar that's also been devalued anywhere between 30 to 40%, and of course the domestic one valued anywhere between 60, devalued anywhere between 60 to 70%. Is that the future? So there's a couple of things that we need to keep our eyeballs on, a couple of things that are on the radar scale. Let's see what happens. And with that being said, Siege, I think we've come to the end of the broadcast, sir. Anything else? What's going on?
Yeah, just a couple updates real quick. We will be rescheduling the series report with London Paul. He's not available, taking care of some important family matters. So I want to wish him the best of luck with that. I'm going to also be getting with Charles Hugh Smith of Two Minds. We typically do a show with him once a month, so see if we can't bring that broadcast today, V. And then also for our listeners who listen to our podcast via iTunes, I promise to get that updated today. It was a busy weekend, so I didn't get it finished, but I got a lot of downloads done. I just need to get them uploaded, V.
Thank you. No problem. Folks, thank you all for listening in, and we got an exciting week lined up, don't we, CJ?
Yeah, we got a big week. A lot of great interviews coming online. Some people that are really doing some amazing things to help the movement to win back, taking our country back for us people who feel that the movement is just so important, and we have to realize that now's the time. I mean, the clock is ticking, and we're going to have some amazing interviews this week, V.
Absolutely. And with that being said, folks, we are over and out. Take it away, CJ.